shit, just get inside. It's time to take your ass on another kind of trip, cause you can't have to hop if you don't have to hip. Grab your back with the extra clip and close your eyes and hit the switch. We're going to a place where everybody kick it.
Welcome today, all you sports fans out there in the tubosphere, to you, the individuals, part of the collective. Welcome to Fast Track Sport Track Highlights here on the OMSR. I am your brief but concise host, Will, the alternative ESPN Sports Thrill. Talking college football selection show. Just briefly, just giving you an intro as to the clips coming up and the whys and wherefore. You see from a few of the Pi Kappa, Alpha, House Sweethearts, UVU Chapter Alpha Tau giving you props. Dwayne, Darnett, ultimate sports fan, OMSR mascot, still sporting the Red Sox beard, graphic from the channel, and Kim Pock, the oracle to the sports gods, 25-5, after the Florida State Clemson question. Haven't had any time to ask him a question since then. 1,300-year-old Buddha in the Angkor Wat style. Alright, just a reminder, sponsor of this show is the DMCA. Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Covers a fair use standard, thumbs up, minimal use, and derivatives. That's all the video highlights courtesy to ESPN. And the semblance of the five of them, two separate crews. They're on college football final and college football Thursday night and so forth. Everything else, the OMSR. Alright, so just briefly. Don't have a whole lot of time for a quickie sport rant of the day. Parts 1 through 3. 2, 3, and 10. I got some screwed up notes here. Bear with me. The Russell Bowl. Russell Athletic. Miami versus Louisville. Arizona versus Boston College and a bunch of others. And then number 10, Oregon. Do a little bit more commentary, versus Texas. Then on number 10, we got Las Vegas Bowl. Fresno State versus USC. Part 2 coming up. For more bowls, notable moments from the BCS-era. Of course they had to do that because this is the last of it. And then more bowls, lesser tier bowls somewhat. And then the non-BCS bowl, best to look forward to. In part 3, 6, 8, and 9. Upset alerts in the bowls. The Capital One Bowl and a little bit more analysis on South Carolina versus Wisconsin. In part 9, then the Cotton Bowl, Oklahoma State, Missouri. Part 4, number 1, Florida State Auburn. Pollock's running his mouth off. Part 5, Part 7. Who wins the BCS based on the panel's predictions? Alright, so actually I need that. It's funny it came back to me. It's like, wait a minute, I need that. Biggest losers in this. It's either Louisville or Oregon. Oregon playing non-ranked Texas, number 10 Oregon. Louisville, having lost only once, playing non-ranked Miami. This is the problem with the bowls other than the BCS-era. Who gets to play for the national championship? Remember back in the day, this is the quickie sport rant of the segment. Back in the day, and I'm talking back in the day, not too long ago, frankly, it was the second, if no more than the fourth Big 12 championship. Kansas State, number 2, Michael Bishop led. They lose their last game. They end up playing a 6-6 unranked team in their bowl game because they lost their last game. Why is it, and this will still be a problem in the playoff system, that he who loses last gets penalized the most? Alright, so that's what's coming up. Thanks for watching throughout the year. Go see the DUIs while you're out there. Later days, we'll signature play.
Cato and that high-powered Marshall offense will take on Maryland. That's in the Military Bowl presented by Northrop Grumman, December 27th. That game will be on ESPN. Syracuse, Minnesota, BYU, and Washington. Chris Peterson, now the head coach of Washington, take over after the bowl game. Jesse will be calling the game that Lou cannot wait for. Rutgers and Notre Dame, Yankee Stadium, December 28th. Ought to be nice and warm there for that one in the new era Pinstripe Bowl. They'll kick it off at noon.
There weren't enough Big 12 bowl-eligible teams to fill the slot to play in this game, so Notre Dame gets to come where they consider home. New York City's always treated them very well. Y'all are not excited. Our city.
Yeah, had they not gone there, they'd gone to Hula Bowl where Mark and I are going to do that game.
See some of the other bowls coming away, Virginia Tech and UCLA in the Sun Bowl on December 31st. We're saying goodbye to the BCS era. Some notable moments. Florida State won the national championship. It's only one of the BCS era. Peter Warwick making the 43-yard touchdown catch in the victory over Michael Vick and Virginia Tech.
He's down.
2011.
No, he's not.
Michael Dyer thought he was down for a minute, and then he turned out to be the offensive MVP of the national championship game against Oregon. 22-19 victory for Auburn against the Ducks. 2003 Fiesta Bowl. Chris Gamble draws the PI call against Sharp. Buckeyes get the call, go on to win in double overtime. And then Texas trailed USC in the fourth quarter in 2006. That's the 05 season. Vince just went off, scored twice in the final 5 minutes, finished with 200 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. One of the great games in the history of the sport. And then there was this moment. Boise State announcing its arrival with trick plays, the hook and lateral, then the Statue of Liberty that Ian Johnson carried in for the 2-point conversion, and Boise State beat Oklahoma to prove that sometimes the guys can play with the big boys. 16 years we've had the BCS era. 53 schools will have played in BCS bowl games by the end. 11 different conferences appeared in BCS bowl games. 15 schools have reached a national championship game. Florida State with 4th appearance coming up. Auburn with its 2nd. And 11 schools have won the BCS national championship. 3 schools have won multiple titles. Auburn and Florida State, winner of that game, will add their name to the list. Florida State going 1-2 in its first 3 appearances in BCS championship game, and Auburn's only appearance, as you saw a moment ago. Tigers defeated Oregon in the 2010 season, 2011 in 22-19 game. So we come not only to praise the BCS, but to bury it. So it's the end of the line. I've said that I think that overall, over the 16-year history of the BCS, that there have been more good things than bad. It is popular to jump on it. It's popular to complain about the computers. We've had matchups that we never would have had under previous systems. Texas, USC, Miami, Ohio State, just to name 2, because of the previous alliances. You also have a situation where it set the stage for going forward into the college football playoff era. Are you going to miss anything about the BCS?
I'm going to miss the controversy. I'm going to miss people talking.
You like controversy?
Yeah,
what a surprise.
Well, we're going to have it anyway, because right now the controversy is 3 and 4, and the future is going to be in 5 and 6. But I think when you look at BCS, they accomplished their mission. Their mission was to get the #1 and #2 teams to play in a national championship game, and they did that each and every year, in my opinion. And I think for some of the little guys like the Boise States, they had an opportunity to play in a BCS game and be on the big stage. I think they accomplished that mission also. And the most important thing is they made a lot of money.
No,
they were able to spread it around.
And the sport's never been more popular.
Yeah, but I dislike it for this reason. The national championship game is so important to everybody in the country. All of a sudden, the other bowls, such as the Orange or Sugar, become less important. The fans don't want to go there. The media doesn't want to cover it in particular, and it becomes an exhibition game. I remember we're like 6th in the country playing Florida State was 4 in the Orange Bowl because we weren't in the national championship. It wasn't that big of a game.
I'm not going to miss the mystery and confusion surrounding the computers. It's hard to trust formulas and mathematical equations you just don't understand. And when they don't take into consideration margin of victory, injuries, other independent variables that determine the outcome of games, it's hard to trust that. That's why last week we're looking at the computer polls. Northern Illinois sitting at number 10. It's hard to trust.
Yeah, and I think that you also found everybody pulling against certain teams that you needed to lose late in the season, which was kind of fun. So you had that, everybody would concentrate on certain games. Like everybody in the South this past week was concentrated on Ohio State, pulling from the lose because they knew they'd have a shot.
And I don't like the new system either.
Well, the one thing that the selection committee should take this under advisement, in my judgment, the biggest problem with the BCS system was early in its history, they reacted to every perceived problem and changed the formula, and it eroded the public confidence in the system, which made some of the controversies seem larger than they actually would have been. Selection committee needs to be decisive. They need to make a plan, work the plan, stick to it. Sometimes there's going to be some controversy. You just have to live with it. Say we're doing the best we can to put the best 4 teams in the college football playoff going forward. Missouri going into the postseason, so too is Louisville. We're going to break down the rest of the bowl games, 35 of them in all, 70 teams. If you haven't seen your team yet, you better start looking. We're about to round out all the bowl matchups. Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl, December 30th. Hotty Toddy takes on Georgia Tech. They'll have to deal with that option game after their heartbreaking finish against Mississippi State on Thanksgiving night. Do it with me, Mark. High-octane football. Arizona State taking on the Deep V. but Kingsbury also.
They're negative.
What did you vote Bama in his final poll?
Kingsbury voted Alabama 6th in the final poll. That's all right. Everybody's got an opinion, right? Iowa and LSU. Remember that great finish a few years ago with Drew Tate throwing the touchdown pass against LSU to beat them? They'll meet again in the Outback on New Year's Day. That one comes on ESPN on New Year's morning. BBVA Conference Bowl. Vanderbilt going back to the postseason against Houston. Go Daddy. Arkansas State. Brian Harsin, former Boise State offensive coordinator, former Texas offensive coordinator, on January 5th against Ball State. So BCS bowls are going to get most of the attention, and understandably so. But among the non-BCS games, which one are you most looking forward to, Jeff?
Cotton Bowl, Missouri versus Oklahoma State. Familiarity, two former Big 12 opponents. And earlier we talked about how Missouri has a great front seven, their defense. I've really enjoyed watching Oklahoma State play defense this year. Now, they're going to want to atone for what happened late in the game against Oklahoma, but I think they do the fundamental things necessary to be successful, especially playing in the Big 12. They don't give up explosive plays. They create takeaways. And in the red zone, they force field goals. They don't allow touchdowns. I think that's key when you look at Missouri and all the weapons they have, particularly on the perimeter of the field.
Who you got, Lou?
I like Miami of Florida and Louisville in the Russell Athletic Bowl in Orlando, and here's why. I think Charlie Strong's had a very, very difficult year. I don't think he's really enjoyed coaching, and he's a great coach. He's coached for me. He's done a magnificent job. I think he's going to look on this as the first game of next year, and maybe even an audition for Florida sometime in the future.
Where do you live?
I live in Orlando.
The Sheridan Hawaii Bowl. I'm really interested in that because you look at what Oregon State, you got Sean Mannion throwing the ball, Brandon Cooks kicking, and how about Boise State without Chris Peterson? It's been a long time. He's had some great success there. He's moving to Washington, so it's going to be interesting how they respond.
Chick-fil-A Bowl. Johnny Football.
Yeah.
His last swan song.
Johnny Laces.
He's gonna do something crazy, and he's been the most entertaining football player I've seen in college football so far since I've been covering it, and I can't wait to see how he finishes.
I don't think I've seen a more exciting player, maybe some that match it, since I started watching the sport when I was 5 years old.
Roger Staubach.
Okay, that was before me. I do remember, and that was a little before me.
Nothing he's as old as James Winston.
No, but you've seen the old film.
Hey,
right?
I was coaching when he was playing. That's how old I am. My birthday candles cost more than the cake.
And by the way, I don't want to hear anybody say that there are too many bowls. Who's against more football?
I'm watching all of them.
I'm watching every one of them. I agree with you, Dave. You and I are on the same page. Playoff. And you come back. Take you there like the Staples singers. Put something in the tank, and I know that I can bring you. If you can't take the heat, get your ass out the kitchen. We on a mission.